The wind howled across the mountain ridges, carrying snow in sharp, swirling gusts that cut across the faces of anyone brave enough to be outside. Mark adjusted the strap of his worn backpack and pulled his coat tighter around his chest. Beside him, his daughter Lily skipped along carefully over the icy path, her small boots crunching in the fresh snow. At 8 years old, she had a boundless curiosity that sometimes worried Mark, but he loved it. "Dad, look at that star." Lily pointed toward a bright point shining above the dark clouds. "Do you think someone is up there looking at us?" Mark smiled. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe they're wondering about us too." Lily shivered, and he scooped her up into his arms. "But we should hurry home. The snow is getting worse." They had spent the morning in the nearby village buying supplies, extra blankets, food, and a small heater for their cabin. Winter in this part of the world was harsh, and the mountain roads were already becoming treacherous. Their cabin was small but warm, perched on the edge of the forest that stretched down the mountainside. As they descended a narrow path, Lily stopped suddenly. "Dad, there's a light. Over there in the trees." Mark squinted through the falling snow. At first he saw nothing unusual, just the occasional flicker of ice catching moonlight. But then a soft glow pulsed deeper in the forest, almost like a heartbeat. "Lily, it's late. We should keep moving," he said gently. "No, Dad. It's moving." Her voice was sharp with excitement and worry. "We have to see." Mark hesitated. He knew the forest could be dangerous, especially at night, but he also knew that when Lily was persistent, arguing with her was pointless, and something in the way she said it tugged at his heart. "Okay," he said finally, "but we'll be careful. You stay close to me." The snow thickened as they made their way through the trees. The light grew brighter, a soft bluish glow, and Mark felt a strange tingling in his chest as though the air itself were alive. Then they came to a small clearing, and what they saw made both of them stop in their tracks. A small spacecraft, no larger than a car, lay half buried in the snow. Its surface shimmered with a metallic sheen, though it was cracked and frost-covered. Beside it, two figures struggled to stay upright. They were unlike anything Mark had ever seen. Their skin was pale and slightly translucent, their eyes large and dark, and their bodies thin and delicate. The smaller one, clearly a child, was trembling violently, its tiny limbs shivering even under the thin fabric it wore. The larger figure crouched protectively, trying to shield the child from the biting wind. Mark's heart thudded in his chest. "Lily, stay back," he whispered. "No." Lily ran forward. "Dad, her child is freezing." She held out her arms, her small face full of concern. "We have to help them." Mark exhaled slowly. He knew she was right, even though fear and caution screamed at him to stay away. "Okay," he said finally, but carefully. "Come here, little one." He stepped forward, keeping his movements slow and calm. The larger alien looked at him with wide, unblinking eyes, then pointed to its child with a soft, mournful sound. Mark understood immediately. The child could not survive in this cold much longer. He set Lily down and opened his backpack. He pulled out a thick blanket and slowly approached the aliens. The smaller one flinched, huddling closer to the parent, but Lily stepped forward gently. "It's okay," she whispered. "We're friends. You'll be safe now." The child hesitated, then slowly reached out, touching Lily's hand. Its skin was cold and almost fragile, like delicate glass. Lily smiled softly. "See, Dad? She trusts us." Mark carefully wrapped the child in the blanket while the adult alien made quiet, musical sounds, like a song, though there were no words. He felt a strange warmth spread through him, as if the sound carried gratitude beyond any language he knew. "Come on," he said to Lily. "We'll get them to the cabin. It's not far." Carrying the small alien child, Mark led the way through the trees, with Lily helping to clear a path. The snow was deep and the wind cut sharply against their faces, but Mark barely noticed. His mind was focused entirely on keeping the fragile child safe. By the time they reached their cabin, both Mark and Lily were exhausted, their clothes damp from snow. But the small cabin's glow was a comfort, and the smell of firewood warmed them as they stepped inside. "Let's get her warm," Mark said, laying the alien child on the sofa and wrapping another blanket around it. The little body still shook, but slowly, the trembling lessened as warmth seeped into its frozen limbs. Lily knelt beside it. "See, you're safe now. We'll take care of you." Mark looked around the cabin. It was small, but it was enough. The heater was on, a kettle of water boiled on the stove, and they had blankets and food. Slowly, he realized something astonishing. This fragile, lost child and its parent were entirely dependent on them. And somehow, without ever asking, he knew he would do anything to help. Over the next hour, Mark and Lily worked together. They built a small bed for the child out of blankets, tried to communicate with the adult alien, and even managed to warm up some water. The adult alien continued making musical sounds, and occasionally it pointed to the spaceship outside as if trying to explain something. Mark shook his head gently, unsure if he could understand. "What do we do, Dad?" Lily asked softly. "Can we help them get home?" Mark paused. The thought seemed impossible. "I don't know, sweetie," he said. "But first we need to make sure they're safe." They stayed up late into the night watching over the aliens. The child finally calmed, snuggling into the warmth of the blankets. Lily whispered stories about Earth, about stars, snow, and mountains to the child. And slowly the little one seemed to respond, a faint glow emanating from its skin in rhythm with the story. Mark, meanwhile, studied the spaceship from the window. It was damaged, clearly not functional. "Looks like they've crash-landed," he muttered. "Or maybe they didn't mean to land here." Lily peered over his shoulder. "Do you think they came from the stars?" "Yes," Mark said softly. "Somewhere very far away." As he said it, he felt a thrill of awe. They weren't just visitors, they were travelers from another world. And in their moment of need, they had fallen into the hands of a human family on a cold, snowy mountain. But along with awe came responsibility. They had no idea how long the aliens could survive here, how they could repair their ship, or whether anyone would find them first. And deep down, Mark knew that helping them was going to be dangerous. But looking at Lily's earnest face and the trusting eyes of the alien child, he knew there was no other choice. Morning came slowly, the snow still falling, blanketing the world in white. The aliens had rested and the child's shivering had stopped. Lily pressed her small hands together. "See, Dad? She's okay now, but we have to keep helping them." Mark nodded. "Yes, Lily, we will." They had no idea that the moment they had stepped into the forest, their lives had changed forever. A small act of kindness, a willingness to help a child in need, had set them on a path that would stretch across the stars. And deep in the cabin, as the snow continued to fall outside, Mark felt the stirring of something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Not just for the aliens, but for humanity itself. That hope, he realized, could be stronger than any fear, warmer than any cold, and brighter than any star. Outside, the spacecraft glimmered faintly under the snow, a silent promise that one day, perhaps soon, it would soar again. And inside, a father and his daughter sat together, keeping watch, ready to do whatever it took to save a small alien child who had come so far from home. The morning sun barely peeked through the thick clouds, casting a pale gray light over the snow-covered mountains. Inside their small cabin, Mark and Lily were already awake. The air smelled of wood smoke and warmth. Outside, the wind still howled, and the snowdrifts were taller than they had been the previous day. Lily carefully adjusted the blankets around the small alien child. Its thin body was finally still, no longer trembling, but Mark could see faint traces of frost on its limbs. The adult alien sat nearby on the floor, eyes focused on Lily. It made soft musical sounds like a song without words. Lily hummed in response, and for a moment the alien seemed to understand, tilting its head curiously. "We need to make a proper place for them," Mark said, his voice low. "They can't stay on the sofa forever." Lily nodded. "We can use the extra blankets and the sleeping bags from the closet. They'll be warm." Together, they built a small, comfortable bed near the heater, layering blankets carefully to insulate against the cold. Mark noticed that the alien child's body seemed to respond to warmth in a strange way. Its faint glow pulsed brighter when it was cozy and dimmed when it felt cold or anxious. He realized that this glow might be a sign of health or emotion, a subtle way of communicating what humans could not always understand. Once the bed was ready, Lily carried the child gently and laid it down. "See?" she whispered. "Nice and warm." The alien made a soft noise, almost like a sigh, and pressed its tiny hand against Lily's cheek. Mark watched them, his chest tight with both awe and concern. "We need to figure out how to communicate with them," he said. "They might not just need warmth, they might need help in other ways, too." Lily tilted her head. "Do you think they can understand us?" "I don't know," Mark admitted. "But we'll try." He began gathering a notebook, pens, and some of the supplies he had used in his engineering projects. He wrote down symbols, drew shapes, and tried to record the sounds the aliens made. Each sound seemed deliberate, sometimes sharp and musical, sometimes long and soft, almost like they were forming words in a language humans had never heard. As Mark worked, Lily continued to sit with the child, telling stories about Earth, about mountains, rivers, and stars. The alien child listened quietly, occasionally glowing brighter or making a tiny sound in response. It was as if the stories themselves were comforting, bridging the gap between two very different worlds. Mark leaned back and studied the adult alien. Its movements were cautious but precise, almost like it was assessing every detail of the cabin. He noticed that it seemed to understand some of the things they were doing. When he placed a blanket near the child, the adult would gently guide it over the little one. When Lily hummed a tune, the alien made a soft, rising sound as if in agreement. "They're learning about us and we're learning about them," Mark said softly. "It's strange, but beautiful." Hours passed and the snowstorm outside showed no sign of stopping. Mark realized that staying hidden was becoming essential. The cabin was close to a small village, and any curious neighbor might stumble upon the aliens. Even a single phone call or a random visitor could lead to fear, misunderstanding, or worse. "We have to hide them," Mark said, looking around the cabin. "If anyone comes here, we can't let them see the aliens." Lily's eyes widened. "But Dad, how? They're so small." Mark thought for a moment. "We'll make a secret room in the back. There's space behind the shelves and under the floorboards. We can cover it with blankets and furniture. It won't be much, but it will keep them safe until we figure out the next step." Together they began moving furniture and blankets, creating a small hideaway just large enough for the two aliens. The adult seemed to understand immediately, guiding the child into the hidden space. Lily helped, whispering encouragements. "Don't worry," she said. "We'll keep you safe." Once the space was ready, Mark brought food. It was not like anything the aliens had ever eaten, he realized, but he offered small portions anyway. The adult alien examined the items curiously, glowing softly as it touched them. The child seemed fascinated by the texture of bread and the warmth of water. Though they could not speak, Mark and Lily understood one another through gestures, expressions, and the glowing signals the aliens emitted. By midday, the child was active, moving its small limbs cautiously. It attempted to mimic Lily's movements, reaching for objects and even producing musical tones that seemed like laughter. Lily giggled in response, delighted. "See, Dad? She's happy now." Mark smiled but kept a careful eye on them. "Yes," he said, "but we need to think about the next step. They can't stay hidden forever. They need their ship, or something to survive here long term." He returned to his notebook, sketching the spaceship and marking areas where it seemed damaged. The metal was bent, frost-covered, and the surface had cracks that ran deep. The engine looked like it had lost power completely, and he had no idea how it functioned. "Do you think we can fix it?" Lily asked, peering over his shoulder. Mark hesitated. "I don't know. It's unlike any machine I've ever seen, but maybe we can try." He examined the symbols on the ship. They seemed to form patterns, almost like a code. He realized that understanding the symbols might be the key to getting it operational. He tried to imitate the sounds the adult alien made, recording them and matching them to the symbols. Lily helped by observing the child's reactions. When the child glowed brighter, they noted it down. When it dimmed or made a soft, distressed sound, they knew it did not understand or was uncomfortable. The process was slow and exhausting. Mark's fingers were stiff from the cold and Lily's hands were red and chapped. Yet despite the challenges, they felt a growing bond with the aliens. They were not just visitors, they were fragile beings depending on their human kindness. That evening, the wind outside became fiercer. Snow slammed against the cabin walls, rattling the windows. The aliens stayed in their hidden space, the child glowing softly as Lily sat beside it. Mark checked the heater and reinforced the cabin doors. He realized how vulnerable they were, not just to the cold but to the unknown. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoed through the cabin. Mark's heart leapt into his throat. "Who's there?" he called, trying to keep his voice calm. No answer came, only silence. He grabbed a flashlight and peered out the window. A figure stood at the edge of the snow, barely visible in the storm. Mark froze, heart pounding. He could not see clearly, but it was someone from the village, or maybe a ranger checking on cabins. "Lily," he whispered. Stay with the aliens. Don't make a sound, Lily nodded, holding the child close. Mark slipped outside, careful to leave no footprints leading to the hidden space. The figure turned out to be a ranger, checking on cabins for safety. Mark explained quickly that the storm had worsened and that they were all safe. The ranger nodded, satisfied, and left. Returning inside, Mark let out a long breath. That was close, he muttered. Lily hugged the child tightly. See, Dad? They're safe because we stayed calm and helped them. Yes, Mark said, feeling pride and relief. You're right. We can do this. But we have to be careful. It's not just about warmth. We have to protect them from people who don't understand. As night fell, Mark and Lily sat together with the aliens. The child rested, glowing gently, while the adult made soft, rhythmic sounds that filled the cabin with a calm energy. Mark thought about how small acts of kindness, wrapping a blanket, sharing warmth, telling a story, could mean the difference between life and death. He realized that humanity had a power far beyond technology or strength. It was empathy, courage, and the ability to care for others even when they were different. And as he looked at Lily, so full of wonder and compassion, he knew that this was the best hope for the universe. Not weapons, not machines, but people willing to act with kindness. The snowstorm raged through the night, but inside the cabin there was a quiet warmth. 2 humans, a small child, and 2 aliens sat together in fragile harmony, bound by trust and hope. Outside, the damaged spaceship waited, a reminder that adventure, danger, and discovery were just beginning. And deep in the hidden corner, the alien child glowed brighter than ever, responding to the care and love of 2 humans who had chosen to protect what was vulnerable, no matter the cost. Mark leaned back, exhaustion weighing on him, but his mind was alive with plans. First, they needed to ensure the aliens survived. Then somehow they would repair the ship. Somehow they would help them return home. The night was long, but hope was stronger than fear, warmth stronger than cold, and love, even across species, stronger than anything else in the universe. For Mark and Lily, the true adventure was only just beginning. The morning sun struggled to rise over the snow-covered mountains, casting a dim light over Mark's cabin. Inside, the warmth of the heater and the glow from the small alien child filled the space with a calm energy. Lily sat beside the child, humming softly, while Mark studied the damaged spaceship from his notebook. Sketches of symbols and engine parts scattered across the floor. We need to try, Mark said, breaking the silence. We have to repair their ship so they can go home. Lily looked up with wide eyes. Do you think we can, Dad? Mark sighed. I don't know, but we can try. We have to. Outside, the snowstorm had subsided slightly, leaving a thick, sparkling blanket of white over the forest. Mark bundled up, carrying his tools and supplies to the spaceship. Lily followed, holding a smaller pack of essentials. The adult alien watched them from a safe distance, glowing softly, while the child remained warm under layers of blankets in the cabin. When they reached the ship, Mark crouched beside it, examining the damage. The metal hull was cracked in several places, frost covering its surface. Panels were loose or missing entirely, and the engine core seemed dead. Mark had no instructions, no blueprint, nothing but his intuition and his knowledge of machines. Lily pointed to the glowing symbols on the ship's hull. Dad, maybe these are instructions. Mark leaned closer. You might be right. He carefully traced the shapes, noticing patterns that seemed to correspond to mechanical sections. If we can understand these symbols, maybe we can figure out how to restart the systems. Hours passed as they worked. Mark tried to match parts of the engine with the symbols, improvising with materials they had on hand. Lily observed the aliens' reactions. Whenever the child glowed brighter, Mark knew they were on the right track. When it dimmed, he adjusted his approach. Slowly, a fragile rhythm developed, human hands guided by alien cues. The cold was relentless, biting at Mark's fingers and numbing Lily's toes, but neither of them stopped. The aliens, though fragile, assisted in their way, moving small pieces, making musical sounds that somehow guided the humans. Mark realized that their intelligence was subtle, precise, and far beyond anything he had imagined. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, the task became even more urgent. The alien child had grown restless, and its faint glow flickered as the cold began to seep through the cabin walls. Lily rushed back inside to tend to it, wrapping it in multiple blankets and holding it close. Dad, it's getting worse, she said. panic creeping into her voice. "We have to hurry!" Mark nodded, his jaw tight. "I know, I'm almost there. We just need to get the engine core online." The final step required connecting a series of delicate circuits in a pattern dictated by the symbols on the hull. Mark's hands shook from exhaustion and cold, but he persisted, guided by Lily's observations and the alien's subtle cues. Sweat and frost mixed on his face and his fingers ached, but finally he finished the last connection. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship emitted a low hum. A soft light spread across the panels and the engine core began to glow faintly. The adult alien emitted a long, musical sound, a mixture of relief and joy. The child's glow pulsed steadily, brighter than it had in days. "We did it," Lily whispered, tears of happiness in her eyes. Mark allowed himself a small smile, but knew the job was far from over. "It's online, but it's not ready to fly. We need to check every system." The storm outside had returned, wind whistling through the trees and snow piling against the cabin walls. Every moment was critical. The child's warmth depended on the ship becoming operational before the storm worsened. Mark worked tirelessly through the night, guided by the symbols and the reactions of the aliens. Lily stayed close to the child, singing softly and encouraging it to stay calm. Occasionally, the adult alien would emit sharp sounds and point toward specific parts of the ship, as if giving instructions. Mark realized that in its own way the alien was teaching him. By midnight, they had repaired most of the ship's damage. The engine hummed steadily, panels secured and systems blinking in a sequence Mark recognized as operational. But one problem remained. The energy core was unstable. If they activated it fully, there was a risk of a critical overload. Mark frowned. "We need a way to stabilize it." He looked around desperately. "What can we use?" Lily's eyes lit up. "What if we use the child?" Mark froze. "The child?" "Yes," Lily said quickly. "Remember how the child glows when it's warm and happy? Maybe its energy could stabilize the core for a short time." Mark considered it. It was risky, but he could see no other option. The child's energy was unlike anything on Earth, alive in a way that could interface with the ship. If he timed it right, it could be enough to start the ship safely. "Okay," he said. "We'll try it, but carefully. Lily, you stay close." Lily nodded and gently carried the child outside, placing it on a soft blanket near the ship. The adult alien hovered protectively, emitting musical sounds that seemed like a warning. Lily calmed it with quiet reassurances, humming a tune that made the child's glow pulse steadily. Mark carefully connected the final interface, using a combination of human tools and alien cues. The child's glow brightened and energy flowed into the engine core. The hum of the ship grew louder, vibrating through the snow. Mark held his breath, eyes fixed on the glowing engine. Then with a soft, powerful surge, the engine stabilized. Lights flickered, panels hummed, and the ship's systems became fully operational. The adult alien let out a long, joyful sound, and the child's glow pulsed in sync with the ship. "We did it," Mark whispered, exhaustion and relief washing over him. But there was no time to celebrate. The storm outside raged violently, and the forest around them was treacherous. They needed to move the ship to a clear area for takeoff. Mark, Lily, and the aliens worked together, sliding the ship onto a small clearing near the cabin. Every step was dangerous, but their teamwork was seamless. The adult alien helped guide them, while the child's glow illuminated the path. Lily encouraged the child softly, her voice steady and full of warmth. Finally, the ship rested in the center of the clearing. Mark checked the systems one last time. Everything was operational. The child's glow pulsed steadily, signaling stability, and the adult alien emitted a series of soft musical sounds that seemed like gratitude. Mark stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's ready," he said. "They can go home." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "We did it. We really did it." The adult alien gently lifted its child and moved toward the ship. The child reached out a tiny hand toward Lily, and she held it for a moment, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Goodbye, little one," she whispered. "Stay safe." The adult alien made a final, long musical sound, and then they entered the ship. Mark and Lily stood together, watching as the ship powered up. Lights glowed, engines hummed, and the craft slowly lifted into the sky, cutting through the storm like a silver arrow. As it rose, the child's glow pulsed one last time in rhythm with Lily's heartbeat. a silent promise that their connection would not be forgotten. Mark felt a surge of pride and awe. Humanity, he realized, had a power far greater than technology or weapons. It was empathy, courage, and the willingness to act with kindness, even when the stakes were unimaginably high. Lily hugged her father tightly. "Dad, did we really save them?" "Yes," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We did, and they'll never forget it." The ship disappeared into the night sky, leaving the clearing quiet except for the whisper of the wind and the soft crunch of snow underfoot. Mark and Lily returned to their cabin, exhausted but filled with a sense of wonder. They had faced the unknown, worked with beings from another world, and discovered the strength of their own hearts. As they settled in for the night, the warmth of the cabin seemed brighter than ever. Outside, the forest was silent, snow sparkling under the moonlight. Inside, a father and daughter shared a quiet smile, knowing they had done something extraordinary, not just for the aliens, but for themselves. For Mark and Lily, this was more than a rescue. It was proof that humanity could rise to meet the stars, that courage and kindness could overcome fear and danger, and that even the smallest gestures could have cosmic consequences. The adventure was far from over, but they had taken the first step. And in the quiet of the snowy mountains, hope glowed as brightly as any star in the sky. The morning was calm. Snowflakes drifted slowly from the sky, sparkling like tiny stars as they fell on the forest floor. The storm from the previous night had passed, leaving the world quiet and still. Mark and Lily stood near the clearing, their breaths visible in the cold air, watching the repaired spacecraft. Its hull glimmered in soft shades of blue and silver, powered and ready to return to the stars. The adult alien stood beside the ship, holding its child close. The child's glow was steady, warm, and comforting, a sign that it had recovered fully thanks to the care of Mark and Lily. For the first time in days, the alien seemed relaxed, no longer trembling or anxious. Mark looked at Lily. "This is it," he said softly. "It's time for them to go home." Lily nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. "I don't want to say goodbye," she whispered, "but I'm happy they'll be safe." Mark put an arm around her shoulders. "I know, sweetie. This is what we've worked for. And, we've done something incredible. We helped a family from another world survive." Lily hugged the child gently. "Goodbye, little one," she whispered. "Be brave, and remember us." The child reached out a tiny hand and touched Lily's face. Its glow brightened, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat, and for a moment time seemed to stop. The bond they had formed, across species, across worlds, was visible in that soft, radiant light. The adult alien emitted a series of long, melodic sounds, like a song of thanks. It looked at Mark with wide, dark eyes glowing softly. Mark realized the gratitude was not just for him, but for humanity, the kindness, courage, and empathy they had shown. Mark took a deep breath. "We won't forget you either," he said. "You've changed our lives." Lily stepped back, letting the adult carefully carry its child toward the ship. The engines hummed quietly, a soft vibration through the snow as the spacecraft's systems began their final pre-flight checks. Mark studied the ship's hull, marveling at the engineering and design. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, delicate, advanced, and beautiful in its simplicity. Yet it had been fragile, vulnerable, and dependent on them. Humanity's ability to care, to act with empathy, had made the difference. Without them, the child might not have survived. Lily whispered to Mark, "Do you think they'll come back?" Mark smiled softly. "I don't know, but maybe. And even if they don't, we've made a connection. That's something stronger than time or distance." The spacecraft powered up fully, lights glowing brighter as the engines thrummed. The child's glow pulsed in harmony with the ship, a final acknowledgement of the humans who had saved it. The adult alien pressed its hand against the hull, and the ship responded with a soft, harmonic sound, almost musical in tone. "Ready?" Mark asked Lily. She nodded, holding his hand tightly. Together they took a step back, watching as the ship slowly lifted off the ground. Snow sprayed around it, sparkling in the engine's glow. It hovered for a moment, almost as if pausing to say goodbye, then rose higher into the sky. Mark and Lily's hearts swelled with awe. The ship disappeared into the horizon, streaking like a comet across the gray morning sky. The wind carried a soft hum, the remnants of the spacecraft's energy fading into the distance. Lily whispered, They're gone, but I feel like they're still here. Mark nodded. They are. In a way, they always will be. We shared something important with them, something that goes beyond words. You showed kindness, bravery, and love. That's something no one can take away. The father and daughter walked back to their cabin, crunching softly over the snow. Every step felt lighter, freer, as if the world itself had shifted. The mountains, silent and majestic, seemed to witness their triumph. Inside the cabin, the warmth felt different now. It wasn't just the heater or the fire, it was the glow of understanding, of achievement, and of the bond they had formed with beings from another world. Mark sat by the window, sipping a cup of hot tea while Lily gazed at the stars. "Dad," she said softly, "do you think there are more like them out there?" "Absolutely," Mark replied. "And maybe one day we'll meet them. Or maybe they'll meet us. But we've proven something today, Lily. We've shown that humans can make a difference, even for creatures from the stars. Empathy, kindness, courage. These things matter." Lily smiled, feeling a warm pride fill her chest. "We really did save them, didn't we?" "Yes," Mark said, placing a hand over hers. "And we'll always remember it." The night grew darker, the stars shining brightly above the mountains. Mark and Lily sat together in quiet reflection, thinking about the adventure they had shared. The memory of the child's glowing light, the soft musical tones of the adult alien, and the fragile spacecraft hovering in the storm would stay with them forever. In that quiet, snowy night, Mark realized something profound. Humanity's greatest strength was not in machines or weapons. It was in hearts willing to care, to act with courage and to love even when the odds were impossible. Lily, still staring at the sky, whispered, "I hope they'll find their home safe." "They will," Mark said, "because we gave them the chance. And someday someone else will do the same for us or for someone else in need." The forest outside was silent now, snow covering every trace of the previous night's struggle. The cabin, small and warm, stood as a testament to what humans could achieve when they worked together and acted with compassion. Mark looked at Lily and smiled. "You know, kiddo, today you taught me something too." Lily tilted her head. "What, Dad?" "That kindness matters," he said softly. "Even the smallest person, the smallest action can change the universe." Lily grinned, hugging her father tightly. "I'm glad we did it together." Outside, the stars twinkled brighter than ever. Somewhere far away, 2 aliens were returning home, carrying the memory of humans who had risked everything to save them. And here on Earth, a father and daughter had learned that courage, empathy, and love were as powerful as any technology in the stars. Mark poured another cup of tea and looked out the window once more. The forest was calm, the mountains majestic, and the snow pure. He felt a quiet pride, a warmth in his heart that would never fade. Humanity had risen to meet a challenge, and in doing so, they had proven that even the smallest acts of care could echo across the universe. Lily yawned, curling up under a blanket. I think this was the best adventure ever," she murmured, eyes half closed. Mark smiled, brushing a lock of hair from her forehead. "It was. And the universe is full of adventures waiting for us, ones that need people willing to act with courage and love." The night stretched on, calm and peaceful. The aliens were gone, but their presence lingered in memory, in lessons learned, and in hearts forever changed. And in the quiet, snowy mountains, a father and daughter slept, dreaming of stars, distant worlds, and the infinite possibilities that kindness and courage could bring. The adventure had ended, but the story of empathy, bravery, and hope would live on, both in Earth's mountains and beyond the stars.